The outpost had been built on a barren ridge where winds scoured the metal plating until it dulled to a bleak sheen. From orbit, it looked like an insignificant speck crouched at the border of two empires that had never known peace. Every few months tensions flared, diplomacy faltered, and skirmishes erupted across the frontier. For this reason, the outpost remained permanently on alert. Among its station personnel lived a soldier named Rylan, a man whose quiet discipline made him almost invisible among his comrades. Though none could deny that his courage had been tested and proven many times, Rylan had served for years without seeking distinction. He preferred routine, maintenance rounds, checklists, and predictable schedules. Yet fate rarely honored preference. When the conflict escalated toward full war, he found himself swept into a sequence of events that would alter every belief he had held about the enemy. On the morning, the alarms wailed. He had been on his way to calibrate the eastern array. The sky tore with streaks of burning trails as an alien craft plunged into the valley beyond the ridge. It slammed into the dust with a force that rattled the outpost walls. Command ordered a retrieval unit to investigate. Rylan volunteered, knowing the territory and the hazards better than anyone else on his team. The wreck was twisted, scorched, and half buried in the sand. A faint stream of smoke drifted from the shattered hull. Rylan advanced with his rifle raised, expecting survivors capable of striking without warning. The enemy species was known for speed, precision, and a level of physical resilience that made direct combat lethal. But the interior of the craft held something he did not expect. Among collapsed beams and broken consoles lay a small figure curled inside a protective capsule. The shell glowed soft blue, power failing but intact enough to preserve its occupant. The child within was unmistakably alien, yet carried the unmistakable fragility of any young life. Two large eyes blinked open, reflecting fear but no hostility. Rylan hesitated. Protocol required securing or eliminating threats, but he saw no threat in the trembling hands or quiet whimper rising in the still air. When his team approached, the child recoiled, emitting a high-pitched sound of distress. Rylan stepped between them, lowering his weapon. He spoke softly, letting his tone convey reassurance despite the absence of shared language. The child quieted but continued to shake. Command debated the situation intensely. Some argued for containment and interrogation. Others insisted the child could be used as a bargaining asset. Rylan, who had carried the capsule back to base with care, stood silent during the argument. He knew many would view the child as nothing more than leverage. Yet when the child reached out to him from behind the transparent barrier of the medical ward, he felt an unexpected duty take root. In the days that followed, he served as the child's guardian. The medical staff monitored vitals and attempted to understand alien physiology. Rylan remained by the child's side, offering calm gestures, food approximations, and secure presence. The child responded with growing trust. It learned simple motions, small sounds, and a form of mimicry that revealed budding intelligence. Rylan gave the child a name that was easy to pronounce, Leary. The child repeated it with quiet delight. Leary possessed delicate patterns across the skin that shimmered faintly when experiencing strong emotion. Rylan recognized fear first. Curiosity appeared next. Eventually, traces of affection emerged. These patterns fascinated him, not because they were alien, but because they mirrored universal expressions that transcended species. Leary clung to him when startled by unfamiliar noises. Leary stood behind his leg when strangers approached. Rylan became protector, teacher and anchor in a place that must have seemed terrifyingly foreign. Yet he knew the situation could not remain hidden. Enemy forces would search for the lost craft. The moment they detected trace signals from the valley, the outpost would face retaliation. Command ordered increased patrols and fortified defensive positions. Rumors spread that an elite alien warrior, known for unmatched tracking ability, had crossed into frontier territory. The warrior's title translated roughly to Guardian Matriarch. Many believed she had come for vengeance. Only Ryland suspected something else. He remembered the capsule's protective design and the intricate markings on the hull. This was not a military transport. It was likely an escape vessel, which meant the child was not a prisoner of war, but the offspring of someone powerful and desperate to save her young. One night, the outpost lights flickered. Sensors failed in one section after another. Ryland felt the air shift, charged with the kind of tension that precedes unseen arrival. He secured Leary in his arms and moved toward the reinforced bunker while alarms strained against the failing power grid. A figure stepped through the breach in the perimeter wall, moving with impossible grace. Armor gleamed with an organic sheen, shaped like living metal. Her silhouette towered over the soldiers, who tried to intercept her. She disarmed them with swift motions that caused no fatalities. She sought nothing but a single target. When she entered the corridor outside the bunker, Ryland positioned himself between her and Leary. She halted. Her posture stiffened. The faint glow of her armor brightened as she recognized the child. Leary wriggled from Ryland's grip and toddled forward with small, unsteady steps, reaching out with both hands. A soft chime rose from the warrior's throat, a sound that trembled with relief. The outpost security team primed their weapons, but Ryland ordered them to stand down. He raised both hands to show he held no threat. Leary pressed gently against the warrior's leg. She knelt, placing protective arms around the child. Her gaze lifted to Ryland, and he sensed gratitude tempered by suspicion. She scanned his posture, searching for signs of deceit. He remained still. Before further communication could unfold, distant sensors triggered. Enemy reinforcements approached, misinterpreting the situation and preparing to destroy anything that stood between them and the child. The outpost command demanded immediate evacuation. The warrior understood the danger instantly. She tried to lift Leary and retreat, but the child refused to release Ryland's arm. The small hands clung with desperate strength. The warrior emitted a low tone that Ryland recognized as plea. Without understanding the words, he understood the meaning. She wanted him to accompany them, not as prisoner, as someone Leary trusted. He faced the corridor behind him. Soldiers waited, unsure whether to attack or protect. He had little time. Leary trembled with fear as distant vibrations shook dust from the ceiling. Ryland made his decision. He stepped forward, placing a hand on Leary's head in reassurance. The warrior extended one arm around both child and human. Together, they retreated into the shadows of the breach. Moments later, the outpost came under heavy bombardment. Ryland glimpsed the explosion of fire that engulfed the structure just after they cleared the ridge. The warriors' speed saved them, carrying them across uneven ground until they reached a concealed transport hidden beneath cloaking fields. Inside the vessel, the atmosphere hummed with alien resonance. Ryland kept one hand on Leary while the warrior activated controls. The ship rose with silent force and veered toward a region marked as hostile in every human navigation chart. Ryland felt the weight of danger, but trusted the evidence of the past days. If the warrior had wished to harm him, she would have done so already. Instead, she kept casting glances toward him, assessing his condition as carefully as she did Leary's. Hours passed before the ship entered a vast cradle of light where living architecture curved around them like the inside of a colossal shell. This was the heart of the alien domain. Ryland anticipated imprisonment. Instead, a delegation emerged to greet the warrior with respectful gestures. Several members carried medical instruments shaped like transparent petals. They examined Leary briefly, then bowed to Ryland. Confusion washed through him. Yet no hostility radiated from their movements. The warrior led him into a chamber filled with bioluminescent strands that pulsed softly as though alive. She tapped a device on her arm. A translation field shimmered into being. Her voice reached him, toned with dignity and controlled intensity. She explained that Lyri was her child, born during a crisis in their territory. A political faction sought to seize power by targeting her family. To protect Lyri, she had placed the child in an escape vessel and sent it beyond the conflict zone, intending to retrieve it later. The vessel malfunctioned, stranding Lyri near human territory. When they detected the crash, she followed at once. She found evidence that humans had reached the site, but expected the worst. Instead, she discovered that someone had protected her child. She looked at Rylan with fierce resolve. Her species honored debts with profound seriousness. No reward could equate to the value of her child's safety. She told him that by guarding Lyri with his own body, he had earned something rare, a bond recognized by her people as sacred. He would be treated not as outsider, but as kin to the child. If he wished, he could remain among them under her protection. The offer stunned him. He stared at Lyri nestled against her mother, patterns glowing with relief. The child reached for him again. In that moment, he realized how profoundly he had grown attached. Yet he also thought of humanity, the outpost, his duty, and the war that carved fear into every border. The warrior seemed to sense his conflict. She assured him that returning him safely was equally within her power.